The planet breathed a yearn of ease as the guns bring down quiet, labeling the end of the at first planet warfare. But for lot Scottish soldiers the dispute was not above. On the day of the truce, November 11, 1918, a sunrise assault on a business of King Scottish leftward 18 men corpse and 34 other injured. The foe, who lose up to 30 men in the activity, were Bolshevist forces, fight in a neglected war in northern Russia, that lasted before 1920. CPL Maurice Lumb, a sharpshooter of Western Yorkshire, was portion of the activity on November 11, and was orderly to transactions in a red sharpshooter who had inflicted a quantity of human loss. In his expense Memoirs of a Sharpshooter in Russia he wrote, "My sight creature nice, I quickly got his stance weighted up. He as well knew of my present for he stored driving a courtyard or couple. I implemented it was a instance of steep surviving and while a grey Astrakhan region had emerging I took cautious aim and scored a bull sight, that got rid of a really hazardous client. No future human loss were supported of how resource." He added, "The day was the 11th of November, 1918, but down there was no truce in how portion of Russia. We had supported a lot of human loss, but the foe had supported though more than." The War Journal of 2/10 King Scottish told, "This entire business behaved in a largest courteous way for the activity. Had the foe been success in his assault it would include been really fatal." The King Scottish were decorated the Fight Honour Archangel, one of just 2 regiments to be permitted to involve the behalf on their colours. War Crosses, one of the highest honours for courage, were decorated to 3 King Scottish commanders following the activity and some decorations, consisting one of the Whites Rusky captain, were taking into account 2 NCOs and privates. The reference for interim Lieutenant Robert Hastings recite, he individually reconnoitered the attitude to the stance by really harsh gun and car gun flame. A problem strength of UK, Canadians, Australians, France, Italians and Americans had been shipped to Archangel in August 1918 to roller forces opposed to the Bolshevist by the government that had withdrawn force in the October coup the early year. Separately of 2/10 Division, King Scottish, the UK military turned on men of 2nd Division Upland Lighting Troop and a Emotio of 548, Dundee, Box Business King Engineering personnel. The Allies thick felt the Bolshevist mode was a marionette of Germany and the Intervene, commanded by Edinburgh-born Foreman General Edmund Ironside, was orderly to provide the Germans could not go forces to the west front line of Russia. War historiographer Gender Duckmanton told while the truce took location in France and Flanders, the military in Russia had already been fight, but the cause for creature down there were abruptly less than precise. Several of them did fight. A lot of the military wondered why they were yet down there. Down there were a lot of mutinies by several of the forces, and down there was a implementation down there wasn't the concern of the social, or the will to conduct on fight much longer period. The King Scottish Division shipped to Russia had consumable the entire of Planet War I in the UK as a coast defense strength, and few of the men had any expertise in fight. Largest of them were classed as unsuitable for front-line line duties. Their problem was to team the rivers and rail channel guideline to Archangel and Murmansk, to hinder Germany of creation a sub-basis in northern Russia. Fight was transferred out in Strange Area versus hard gunman Bolshevist forces. Colonel Martin Gibson, a guardian of the King Scottish Museum, told they justified themselves so. This concept was to engage the Germans so they couldn't go and strengthen the west front line, and insulate them. But they pay expensively for it. Read the diaries of Down There, the commander official, and some solders down there, they piloted up and they did very so in really hard facility in a enormous quantity of foe cladding them. Facility were hard for the Scottish, especially while they heard fight was above in France. John Stewart, of Coatbridge, was 20 while the truce was proclaimed. In an unedited memoir he wrote, "Christmas was quick coming. In the meanwhile we had heard how the truce was signed on the west front line in France, how grown our alcohol, quickly now we would be out of the bleak nation, but we were sorrowfully disappointed. I had my 21 SAINT date of birth on the 20th day of December, my festivity as so as all my comrades was a tin of Macinachie extinguish and several difficult stickiness biscuits. This winter was now take its duty. Multiple cases of chilblain and flu added to our already besieged forces. In all, UK forces lose 37 commanders and 217 men in the campaigns in Archangel and Murmansk, in a future 41 commanders and 320 men creature injured in activity up. The campaigning came to an end in 1920. They had in impact been take portion in a civilian warfare, branch in the Whites Russians versus the Reds, the Bolsheviks. Gender Duckmanton told how is portion of the cause the intervene is so slight named. It was thick felt it was confusing. It seemed to be a muddled politics, he told.